Nobody teaches you how to spot an emotional wound. You just keep bleeding and wondering why everything feels harder than it should. If you grew up in a home where love felt unpredictable, where affection had to be earned or simply wasn't there, you didn't come out of it unchanged. You came out of it rewired. And the tricky part is that most people carrying these wounds don't recognize them as wounds at all. They just think this is who they are. It isn't. What developmental psychology keeps revealing is that early emotional environments don't just shape childhood. They become the invisible architecture of your adult mind. The way you respond to conflict, closeness, criticism, kindness, all of it runs on code written years before you had any say in the matter. Here's what that actually looks like in real life. You walk into a relationship and somewhere underneath the excitement lives a quiet dread. Not because anything is wrong, but because your nervous system doesn't trust that things can stay okay. You wait for the shift. You monitor moods, like weather patterns. A slow text reply becomes evidence of something. A tone change becomes a warning sign. This isn't insecurity in the way people casually throw that word around. This is a brain that learned very early. That warmth comes and goes without warning, so it never fully stood down from watch. Then there's this strange discomfort that arrives when someone is simply kind to you. A genuine compliment lands, and something in you wants to dismiss it, deflect it, question their motives. This happens because the mind builds its identity around what it experienced consistently. If consistent love wasn't part of that experience, being loved starts to feel unfamiliar, almost unsafe. So the very thing you've always wanted creates friction when it finally shows up. Here's where it gets quietly painful. A lot of people who grew up with that unconditional love become extraordinary at performing, overworking, overgiving, running themselves into the ground trying to be useful enough, impressive enough, agreeable enough. Because somewhere along the way the message got absorbed that love is a transaction, that you have to keep justifying your place in people's lives. The exhaustion of that, of never feeling settled in your worth, is something words barely do justice. For others, the survival strategy went a different direction. Not outward, but inward. Emotions got quieted, locked behind a kind of internal glass wall. People in this pattern can seem perfectly composed, but it's less about peace and more about distance. Somewhere along the way, feeling became too risky. So the system learned to stay muted. Relationships can start to feel like performances rather than actual contact. And underneath almost all of it tends to sit one belief, rarely spoken aloud but constantly operating. The belief that your needs are too much, that asking for help is an imposition, that struggling should be done quietly and alone, because making your pain visible might cost you whatever connection you still have. That belief was installed by people who didn't have the capacity to show up for you. It was never an accurate reflection of your worth. The reason any of this matters isn't to give you a new way to feel bad about yourself. These patterns were never character flaws. They were adaptations, remarkably intelligent ones, built by a younger version of you who was working with what little they had. Seeing them clearly is not the same as being trapped by them. That's actually where it starts.